So, good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'm Edith Schwartz. I'm the head of the National Erasmus Plus office here in Israel, and we're very, very happy to have with us Edith from EACEA, who is responsible for Jean Monnet activities, to give you information today and also answer any questions you may have. So, on top of this event that we're having today, on the 4th of December, we're going to have an info day on general Erasmus Plus calls, not Jean Monnet. I will send you the details in the chat. And you're welcome also to join our newsletter, whoever isn't signed up already. And now I won't take any more of Edith's time, and I will give the mic to her. Thank you, Edith.
Thank you very much. So, Boker Tov, I speak a little bit of Hebrew, Korim li Judith, and I'm so happy to be with you here today. And my focus will be on the Jean Monnet actions and on the next call, and I will focus on those activities for which you are eligible. As you know, the program guide, which gives you detailed information for the next call, is going to be published probably this week, and the application forms will follow a week after, once the program guide is published. But despite this, that doesn't matter. I will provide you with all the information that you can already use for the next, for your next, let's say, applications. So next slide, please. So as you know, the Jean Monnet actions, they are within the Erasmus Plus program, and they continue to be a separate action. So as it was in the past. You know, in the Erasmus Plus program, it has a duration of 7 years. This is linked to the cycle of the financing also of a program. So 7 years of Erasmus Plus program, key action 1, 2, or 3. Some of you might have already applied for other actions, but Jean Monnet actions, they stay separately as it was in the past. Next slide, please. So, so far, Jean Monnet actions were, let's say, were financed, or we nearly could finance 7,300 Jean Monnet activities in the past years. And here I would like to draw the attention that the Jean Monnet actions, the core subjects must be on European studies and European integration. This is the core subject of Jean Monnet actions. I will go in further details, but please, also for you, Jean Monnet actions are international projects. Higher universities from all over the world can apply to Jean Monnet modules, chairs, and centers of excellence. And each year we involve more or less around 9,000 university teachers that contribute to Jean Monnet courses, because what I'm explaining today for the actions you are eligible are teaching courses at university level on European Union or European studies and European integration subjects. Next slide, please. So on the next slide, you can see here a map, and all what is in green are those countries who had already at least one Jean Monnet action. This year, we celebrate 35 years of Jean Monnet activities. Next slide, please. So who was Jean Monnet? Who was this really important personality? Next slide, please. Jean Monnet, he was a Frenchman, and actually, can you imagine, he never finished his studies, or he never went to university, I would say. And he was so intelligent because he was not only a very successful businessman, but he also understood that after the Second World War, Europe has to come closer together again. And his thoughts were that education is such an important instrument to bring people together. That's why our action is called Jean Monnet Actions, and the subjects, they focus on European integration subjects and European studies. That means everything that has a link to, let's say, topics related to EU studies like EU law, EU agriculture, EU energy topics. These are the core subjects of Jean Monnet Actions. Next slide, please. So that's what I just said. He understood that education has an important role to bring people together again. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I will focus now on those actions for which your higher education institutions are eligible. Next slide, please. This gives you an overview on the different activities. The Jean Monnet actions in the field of higher education, these are your activities. Those actions cover Jean Monnet modules, chairs, and centers of excellence. The second point are actions in other fields of education and training, and only member states are eligible, and they all are also, let's say, for teaching younger students, because we understood that especially young children in Europe, they do not know enough about the European Union, the history, how it functions, how the European Union functions. This is a possibility, but only for member states. The third possibility is Jean Monnet policy debate. These are big networks. And also here, this year, we have a topic on US-Canada, US-Canada. Unfortunately, Israel is not eligible. And the other topic in the network is only for member states. Yes, member states. So next slide, please. So I will focus on 3 actions. But here, this is an important slide because most of the, let's say, bad applications, I would call them like this, are those who do not have as a core subject EU studies and topics on European integration matters. So what does this mean? For instance, a Jean Monnet module, a Jean Monnet chair, or a Jean Monnet Center of Excellence must have a clear reference to European Union studies. That means either on its history. What do we mean by that? Either you can teach and give courses at university about EU history. You could also give or provide teaching at university level and explain the students how the European Union functions. What is the role of the Parliament? What does the Council do? And what is the role of the European Commission? But you can also focus on one of the EU policies, as explained before. This could be, I give you just some examples, but there are many. This could be European Union law. This could be European Union agriculture. This can be European Union Green Deal, environmental issues. So there are a lot of possibilities to, let's say, submit a proposal, but also the focus on European integration matters. Okay, so next slide, please. So as explained before, what do we want to achieve with Jean Monnet actions? We would like to promote active European citizenship and promote also the founding values of the European Union. These can be the respect for human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law, and the respect for human rights, including rights of persons belonging to minorities. So topics like this can also be a main topic of your Jean Monnet action. But the Jean Monnet activities also would like to involve, let's say, people outside university. That means the lessons taught at the university and the subjects taught should also reach out to civil society groups. I will explain you later what we mean by that. You can either involve, if you have a module on EU economy, you could involve bankers. If you have something on EU environmental issues, you could involve somebody from the commune. How do they deal with garbage, etc.? So this is up to your fantasy, yeah? And yes, and the third, the public diplomacy focus, as Jean Monnet actions, they also strive to function as a vector within those diplomacy issues. Yeah, I would say. Next slide, please. Okay. Jean Monnet actions want to promote excellence in teaching. As said, we would like to involve also new people, reach out to specialized audiences. This can be, as I said, people from the commune, bankers, I don't know, journalists, civil society representatives, also including different levels of education, and of course the media. So it is important that what you're doing within Jean Monnet has a certain, let's say, publicity also, that you show that you speak about the Jean Monnet action, maybe, as I said, within a local television, you create your own webpage. So this is also an important point. Next slide, please. Okay, now I will focus on models, chairs, centers of excellence. Those are the actions within Jean Monnet for which your universities are eligible, and any higher education institution in the world can apply except of 2 countries. So next slide, please. For a module has a duration of 3 years. The maximum grant you can receive for the 3 years are 35 euros. And what are the requirements? There is a minimum of 40 teaching hours per academic year at the applicant institution. A module, I would say, is a first teaching activity on European Union topics. It can has a multidisciplinary approach. That means you can tackle different subjects. It can be taught by different teachers, also visiting teachers. So I would consider this as a first entrance action within your institutions if you never had a Jean Monnet action. A chair is already more demanding, a duration also of 3 years. You receive for the 3 years 60,000 euros, and here you need to teach 90 hours per academic year by 1 specialist professor, teacher from the applicant institution. In addition to those 90 hours, you can teach more, let's say, more hours by different people. But the rule is 90 hours per academic year by a specialist person in the EU subject. Okay, then the Center of Excellence. Also 3 years, 100,000 euros for 3 years. And this is already really, I would say, a pool of EU-specific high-level knowledge on EU subjects. Here we do not request teaching hours, but this is or can also be included within a Jean Monnet module. Next slide, please. I have also here some examples that you can have an idea what is meant, what do we have financed already. So this is a Jean Monnet model in India, duration 3 years. And what are the topics? The topics are, I would say, from environmental issues to social dialogue, democracy, ethic, religion, philosophy, interreligious dialogue, but of course always the focus on EU and India, Asia. Here, the involvement of researchers and students in Europe was also important to mention. Next slide, please. I have another example, another model in Norway. This is a model at the University of Bergen, and this model was about how the European Union functions, how the institutions functions, and raising awareness of EU values and democracy aspects. Next slide, please. Another chair. This is a chair in Brazil, focusing on economy and financial affairs. In addition to their teaching activities, they have been publishing books, research articles, and they provided scientific research seminars. Next example is, I remember, yes, another chair in Germany. From Germany. This is a chair on human rights, anti-discrimination law. And what is interesting here, they invited also during their open days, they opened a child university, and they involved children, explaining, of course, within another pedagogical terminology, what they mean by human rights, anti-discrimination law. So this is a nice example to integrate other, let's say, groups of civil society. Okay, next. Please. This is the last example in Canada. This is a Jean Monnet Center of Excellence, focusing on economic and financial affairs. Also here, this Center of Excellence involves civil society and the wider public. Why do I mention that? Because in one of the 4 award criteria, which are the quality aspects, your application is going to be, let's say, examined by external experts. This dissemination point is very important, and you have to show in a good application that you are involving different groups of society. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is the second Jean Monnet action in the field of teacher training and learning EU initiatives, but unfortunately you are not eligible for these. These are activities for schools and schools in order, and they provide teacher trainings that the teachers get better information on European Union subjects, so they can provide this information to the youngsters of our society. But Israel is not eligible. Next slide. Next slide is the Jean Monnet action on policy debate. These are big networks. This year we have 2 networks, a network on EU enlargement as a catalyst for progress. This is on internal policy, so only member states are eligible. And the second network is on EU North America. For these, only member states and North America, like US and Canada, are eligible countries. But it gives you an idea, because those topic of networks, they change each year. Last year it was Africa, this year it's North America. Who knows what's coming up next year? We don't know yet. Okay, next slide, please. So these are now the award criteria, which are the quality aspects of a good application. And for Jean Monnet, we have 4, as for many other projects. Also, the award criteria, they have been harmonized in the program guide for the Erasmus Plus program. And for each of the 4 award criteria, you can receive at least, you can receive the maximum of 25 points. 15 you have to receive in order to be eligible. and the total score of all the points must be 70 out of 100. Otherwise, your application will not go forward. But you will understand that 70% out of 100 is far too low to become, let's say, in the atmosphere of being selected. So usually it's around 86, 85 points. It depends. So relevance of the project. What do we mean by that? This is the first award criterion. Here we mean, is your project relevant for the Jean Monnet action? Is your project within the fields and subjects of EU integration topics? So you have to focus on the topics, as I already explained, can be EU law, EU environmental issues, EU agriculture. The application has to be relevant and has to have a clear link to EU integration matters. The quality of the project design and implementation, what do we mean by that? This is your work program. Here you have to explain what are you going to do through the 3 years of your project. Quality of partnership and cooperation arrangement. This is a little bit misleading, but it has been standardized, this phrase, because for Jean Monnet actions, you do not need partners apart for the network. So for modules, chairs, and centers of excellence, there is no partnership. There is only the applicant institution. This has the advantage that you do not depend on partners and you do not have to have the fear that they don't submit in time what they have to contribute to the project. So that's why Jean Monnet are rather easy.
But can you repeat this
actions?
sentence, because I couldn't understand you, the quality of partnership? Can you repeat it?
The quality of partnership, yes, for Jean Monnet actions, you do not need partners apart for Jean Monnet networks, but for Jean Monnet networks, you are not eligible. So the quality of the partnership means under this award criteria, here we will examine the quality of the professors and people teaching at university. That, for instance, if you have an application for a Jean Monnet module, a chair or center of excellence on EU agriculture or EU law, here we will examine the qualification of the teacher. Is he really experienced within these EU topics he will teach at university? That's there we will check the CVs, the publication he has been doing. I just wanted to say that for the actions you are eligible, there are no partners required, just for networks. Okay, you're welcome.
If I can also ask, so if there are professors that are just finished their doctorate and fairly new, so that would be a disadvantage for them because they don't have many publications in the field?
I would say, for instance, for modules, there we usually have younger people teaching modules. And as I explained, they have a multiple disciplinary approach. But under the award criteria, quality of cooperation arrangements, blah, 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 these where we check the quality of the people teaching. I mean, of course, if you go for a chair or center of excellence, you have to be sure that you have a good list of publications, books, articles. You know, the more you have there, the better it is. You cannot take a teacher who has never been teaching or never did his studies in the EU subject and then suddenly he teaches EU subject. This is not good. So,
and in the models, how are these, like, do you look at it differently for the modules? Sorry.
But for the modules, for instance, as I said, a module can have a multidisciplinary approach. I mean, if you have several teachers teaching there, so maybe one is experienced in one field, the other one is experienced in the other field, and the requirements of teaching hours is only 40 per academic year. So the level is not so high as a chair, but you always should be sure that they have experience in teaching EU subjects of course, for which subject they are applying. This is crucial. Can also be history on EU history. I don't know. This depends a little bit for what you're applying. But it is crucial that the teachers and the people applying there have experience. But for instance, if you are thinking of a model chair center of excellence and you also organize conferences, there you could also have an experienced person in organizing conferences or setting up web pages. So here you must also prove that this person is experienced in what he's doing, because then the experts will give you more points, you know, and if you don't prove, okay, if you just take, I don't know, the same person for teaching and the same person for technical issues, it's not so. I would rather say really show that the people involved in the actions, they have experience and they are professionals in what they're doing. So that's just explaining that your points might be, that you receive might be higher, but this is of course up to the external experts. So the last award criterion is on impact, dissemination, and sustainability. And this is sometimes a little bit underestimated because they all focus on relevance, the description of the work program, and then, of course, of the quality of the teachers. But impact and dissemination and sustainability, what do we mean by that? Here you should show that you reach out with your project to a larger, let's say, audience. Not only, you don't stay closed in university, you don't stay only with your students and the professor. No, you reach out to different groups in civil society, depending on the topic of your action. As explained before, if it's on economy, you could involve, I don't know, bankers. If it's on EU agriculture, you could involve the farmers from your region. If it's on environmental issues, the commune, and also discuss how they do it, you know, at your level. So reach out to more groups in civil society, open up the topic also to children, for instance. If a university has an open day, involve also younger people, involve journalists, make articles in local newspapers, do it in a radio, you know, so that what's happening within your Jean Monnet action becomes wider and more, let's say, known. This is important that you mention it there. And we always recommend also that if you introduce a Jean Monnet action, please think also of creating your own website for the project, because if you just put it on the university, people will never find it. But if you create a website for the Jean Monnet Model Center of Excellence or Chair, and there you publish what's going on through the 3 years, you publish maybe slides or already articles or an interview given, or you publish information what's coming up next. This is very good also for let's say, regarding dissemination and sustainability. So this should be mentioned also at application stage, because then you see you might receive more points. Okay, so these really 4 award criteria are the quality aspects for a good application. And this, what I just told you now, does not only go for Jean Monnet actions, it goes for all actions within the Erasmus Plus program. Okay, you always must try to receive not only 100 points, 150 points. So really try to be always the best. And I know you can do it. So next slide, please. Okay, so we have 2 types of funding mechanism. There is the lump sum type 1, where you receive a fixed amount for models and chairs. That means you receive for a model 35,000 euros for 3 months, and for a chair 60,000 100,000 for the 3 years. You receive a pre-financing of 80%, and then at the end of the project, you receive the rest. You don't have to do any reporting between. Only at the end, you have to declare that you have done the teaching hours that you promised at the beginning, okay? And this is for models and chairs. Here we do not check how many money went for sending out letters or etc. So there is no detailed budget request at the end of the project, only that the hours, teaching hours you promised in the beginning is done. And then of course you will see we have now by the e-grants work packages, so that you fulfill the different work packages, okay? But there are no detailed budget reportings, only for the Center of Excellence, as this is a higher amount of 100,000. There at the beginning already, the budget is a more detailed budget with the 7, let's say, rubric regarding staff costs, traveling, subcontracting. It's a little bit more detailed, but easy also, you know, so it's not a big, really not a big deal. And at the end, you always will have to report with compared what you promised in the beginning at the application and what you have been doing. And then at the end, the final payment will be based on the final report. But also here for a Center of Excellence, there are no interim reports. So we receive a pre-financing, and then at the end of the project, you introduce the final report and the different work packages you have concluded. But of course, if there are any changes during those 3 years, you have to inform us, and then maybe an amendment is needed. This will then have to be decided with you and the project officer. But this is not something that creates any problems. It's a normal procedure, and it just helps you that the project is on the right track, and at the end, there are no surprises. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, so the selection result of the last year's selection called 2024, we had a budget of around 26 million euros. We have received 1,400 applications, 377 were selected. You can see in the field of higher education, the 3 actions, models, chairs, and centers of excellence, those were the main activities for which you are also eligible. Most of the actions selected were modules, chairs, and centers of excellence, but because also most of the activities we receive are modules. Then over 100, let's say, actions in the other fields of education and training, and 8 Jean Monnet networks. Next slide, please. So for the upcoming call, the publication of the call and the program guide is foreseen mid-November. I was asking yesterday because we are already in mid-November, so it should be published this week. But the information I gave you today is already very, let's say, nothing is going to change here. You just will find the details per action within the program guide. Further details have absolutely be checked in the program guide, because then you will have to, in the application, report also what is asked related either to models, chairs, or centers of excellence. So what is important to you is to know when it's going to be the deadline for the next call. It's probably going to be in spring. Last year it was in February, and this year for the next call, it's probably also going to be in February. I wrote here spring because the date is not yet confirmed, but you can already start your application and think how you're going to reply to the award criteria I just mentioned. So then there follows the evaluation period. I told you that each application is examined by 2 independent experts. They write, let's say, expert summary, and they, of course, they check the quality of your application, which are in the 4 award criteria. Then after 6 months, you receive the information if the selection was successful or not, and then you will receive your contract. Okay, so the dates still have to be confirmed. Next slide, please. For this year, we have 23.5 million euros. Most of the money goes here again to models, chair, centers of excellence, 7 million to teacher training, learning new initiatives, and 4.2 million to networks, to those big networks. Okay, next slide, please. So regarding the application, where do you find all the relevant documents? So the Erasmus Plus program guide, the relevant call documents, and the application forms are published on the Funding and Tender Opportunity portal. Here is the link. All applications are done electronically. The e-grant application has 3 parts. Part A is about the applicant institution. Part B is about what you're going to do. That means the award criterion. And part C is about the budget. So rather straightforward. Okay, next slide, please. We're nearly at the end. So I have here some, well, tips for applications, you can call them. I mean, it's not sure if you follow those tips that you're selected, but it can help you also for other applications. So be coherent. Do not just do a copy and paste style application. Be explicit. Please explain what you mean and what you're going to do within your action, because don't think that the experts know neither. They don't know your institution. They don't know either all the abbreviations you're putting in the application. For them, it's like Chinese. So please be just simple and clear and just reply what you're asked. So be concrete, be also realistic. You know, for a model of 35,000 euros, don't promise us all what is not possible. Just be realistic, what you can do within those 3 years. Keep it simple, make simple phrases, remain focused, and make a double check of your proposal, maybe by somebody external, your grandmother, your, I don't know, your boyfriend, your husband. Ask them, can you understand what I have been, what is written here? If it's not clear for you, maybe it's not clear for the experts either. So this might be a good check also to just keep it clear. And yeah, you know that most of the applications that are, we nearly have 0% of ineligible applications. People usually, they submit in time. They don't submit the last day, so they submit in time. Most of the applications fail because they are not enough concentrated on European Union subjects. This is the main error within Jean Monnet actions. So next slide, please. This is the last slide, I think. Next slide. So I have some links for you. This is the link. First is the link to the Erasmus Plus program guide. Then is the link to the Funding and Tender Opportunity portal where you find the application forms. Then there is a link to the platform for dissemination for results projects. Here you will find all projects financed within Erasmus Plus. You can put a filter and get inspired what is happening in other countries or in your country. Then there is also the Jean Monnet Activities database. That means this is a research tool where you can find all Jean Monnet actions since the beginning. You can filter by country, by action, whatever you wish to filter. And the last, this is the email to our functional mailbox. If you have questions, if you don't know what to do, if you're desperate, you just write us an email and we will guide you. Okay, so I hope that we will receive a lot of applications from your country, from Israel. I wish you all the best, and do not hesitate to contact us, please.
Thank you, Edith. Wow, that was so, that was amazing. Thank you so much. And it was very, very clear. And I really hope that your encouragement today will bring more participants to apply. So I want to thank you very, 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 very much for your time. And also I have a question from the chat, and maybe other people have questions as well.
Of course.
So Karen from the Hebrew University is asking, what is the scope of the application? Karen, do you want to clarify your question?
Well, I think it regards mainly part B. If there's a template that we can see, or if we can see how many pages do we need to write according to which categories, what should we include, that I think that would be beneficial to us all. And thank you for the presentation.
You're most welcome. So, you know, the application forms for next year's call, for the call 2025, are not yet published, but you could have a look at the application 2024. There will be no main changes, but when you do your application for the next call, please always use the right form for next year. You will have to fill in around 40 pages for actions below 65,000 euros, I think. But have a look, because then you will be quicker. You can already prepare what is requested. Yes, you could do that. And as I said, Jean Monnet actions, they are easy to apply because you do not need partners for modules, chairs, and centers of excellence. For a center of excellence, for instance, you could involve other universities and universities also outside your country, but it's a main applicant. It's only one university, and how you deal then with the budget, this is up to the applicant university. Yeah.
Any more questions for Edith?
Yes, can I ask a question?
Of course.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for this wonderful presentation. It was perfect. I wanted to know if the application for the teaching module, you talked quite a lot about the European Union as a subject. What if I want to teach a course which is about European history prior to the European Union? Let's say, just an idea, Europe in the Middle Ages. Does that apply or not?
Middle age.
Middle Ages, yeah. Middle Age is me. Middle Ages.
It's a tricky question because I mean, it has to have a clear link, as you will see also in the current program guide, a link to the European Union issues. So middle
Okay.
age, we are already far from the European Union topics a little bit. What I see in history more is the history of the 20th century, how the European Union
Yes.
came together. What was maybe before? Why was this such a horrible century for Europe and the whole world? So it has to have a clear link to EU topics. Middle age.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
This would be my spontaneous reaction,
Yes, I see. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yes. Do you have any other questions, any doubts?
I have a question.
Please.
First of all, thank you very much for the presentation. My question is, should the courses I teach, should they be new? Or could I, let's say, build on existing courses on European integration or regional integration for the presentation, for the submission? Thank you.
Yes, of course. I mean, you can imagine that, for instance, in the member states of the EU, they receive also, let's say, we co-fund Models Chair Center of Excellence on EU topics, but they already have their topics since many years. So of course you can build up and develop the existing courses even more, focusing on what are the criteria for Jean Monnet actions. Of course. So you could involve more civil society. You could also include, I don't know, a little bit of European history, a little bit on EU values. So because why should students know or why is it good for students to know a little bit about European Union history and how especially the European Union functions, because it could help them in their future jobs, that they have a clear idea. I mean, it's kind of a general knowledge also, what does the parliament do? What is the council doing? How is the process that a law goes through? So these are all general issues for students that might help them in their career. Yes, you can build up on what's existing, but further develop it further so it fits 100% what we want to see and hear.
So Annette
I have a question.
Okay. So just before your question, Daniel, Annette is asking in the chat, is the requirement of 40 hours for a module equal to 2-semester courses?
40 hours per academic year. We have left this quite open because, you know, in the world, the academic year is sometimes a little bit different in South America than in Norway, because there's the change of whatever it is. It should be academic year. I mean, if you do in an academic year a little bit less, and if you do, for instance, only, I don't know, 30 hours, and then you do the next year, you add these 10 hours, this can be acceptable, you know? So 40 hours are the rules. And if there are any changes, you contact us and then you see with your project officer if these small changes, usually they are acceptable. They are accepted. But when you do the application, don't already go on exceptions. Don't write only 30 hours. No, 40 hours per academic year is the minimum that we request.
Annette, did that answer your question, or do you want clarification?
Yeah, thank you very much for that presentation. It was really interesting, and this is really helpful. So thank you for setting it up, Einav. Yeah, I guess I was just wondering what that equals in our credit terms, because we have, you know, 1 Shinshin and we have 2 Nas, and, you know, so I guess I was just wondering what the 40 academic hours.
An academic hour is 45 minutes, and you can try to see how, I think courses have different, the NAS don't necessarily reflect the amount of time, right, of the teaching, and so you have to, but I have a wonderful guide on how to, but that's more relevant to ECTS maybe, but Ben Gurion have made, actually, I think it was also through Jean Monnet, but not necessarily, wonderful guide on how to adapt the Israeli system to the EU system of ECTS. So I'll send that here in a link as well. Maybe it would be helpful.
I think that is helpful enough, because essentially if it's, you know, one academic hour is 45 minutes of face time, then that means each course has 2 per week, and we have semesters of about 13 weeks. So 2 courses or an annual course would cover that. Okay, thank you.
If I can also add something here, for Jean Monnet modules, there is also the possibility to have summer courses because 40 hours is not a lot. So we have had projects in the past where they are regrouped during the summer. This is also a possibility, but only
That's
for
exactly
modules.
what I
With
wanted
90
to know.
hours, this is not possible per academic year, because this is for the chair.
We have crash courses during the summer, so I just wanted to ask that. Can we do
Yes.
it during summer? Thank you.
Yes, can I ask now?
Yes.
I'm sorry. So I thank you very much. I wanted to know specifically about the issue of industry relevance. Obviously, I know that the program is meant to apply toward EU policy, but for my university specifically, as we think about even students from the sciences, it would be very urgent and even necessary for them to have courses about European policy with regard to industry and industry protocol and integration of scientific technologies and European, essentially a course on European technology transfer. Because we find that many of our young scientists, they deal a lot with applications of scientific research to Europe, but have absolutely no understanding of how the European Union, again, understands industry protocol in general and certainly understands scientific application. So I was curious if you think that something like this, again, assuming with the idea that it's very targeted toward the European Union and European Union policies explicitly, if that could fall under the call. And I have another question after that, but sorry.
Yes, thank
First
you.
question.
Very interesting question. Yes, yes, I think it could fall into an, let's say, into an application for Jean Monnet actions, but you must be sure that you explain clearly the link to EU policy, EU matters, and not only in the header, but also when you do the description of what you're going to do, the experts must have the clear vision. Okay, there is the link to EU matters, EU issues. Yes.
Right. Absolutely. And so that's where I would wonder if something like that, maybe as a center for excellence. So I'm sorry, I might have missed in your presentation. Centers for excellence do require a consortium, correct? Is that if you're
None of the actions require a consortium. A module is a first entrance, let's say, action for Jean Monnet because it can be taught by, let's say, different teachers or experts on EU topics. A module can have a multidisciplinary approach. A chair has to have a professor with a real focus on the topic, EU topic, 90 hours teaching. And the center of excellence is, I would say, the highest level. Also here, only one university will have to apply, but within the applications for a center of excellence, you can involve different universities who are experts in your EU subject. This can be either in your country or outside your country. But as the applicant is only one university, you do not have to, let's say, split the money at application stage, because it's going to be your responsibility what the others are, how much they get, but what you will have to explain when you take on board different experts from other universities, what is the contribution, the content contribution, and show that those people coming from other universities are experts in the fields, and these will be checked via the CVs, the publications, what they have been doing in the fields they are teaching.
I see, but you don't have to. You can do a center of excellence as one university only.
Yeah. Also, it's
theoretically?
one university. Absolutely.
Fascinating. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Then
No,
we
maybe it
have a center of excellence, Simone Weil Center, that's been operating for, I think, at least 4 years now. And yeah, and they reapply for funding every year.
Who's that?
Ben Gurion University.
Right. No, we've had at Bar Ilan University, that's where I'm from. We've had we were part of a Center for Excellence in Digital Governance, and we were a very active member of the consortium, received funding to do our MOOC courses and so on. But I guess I just because of my association with other types of Erasmus projects, I assumed that had to have a consortium. You're saying that it could be theoretically done as one institution alone. Okay,
Yes.
that's very, very helpful.
Yes.
So thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm very glad. I think this is the session with the most questions that we've had in a while. And I think that's kudos to you, Edith, for really engaging our audience and having such a wonderful presentation. And so thank you so much. And unless if there's any last questions for Edith. Yeah, I think there's a lot to take in.
Just to say thank you.
You're so welcome.
Thank you very much, and we'll share your presentation, of course. And if anyone has any follow-up questions later, you can ask us, and you can also refer to the functional mailbox. And we want to see a lot of good quality applications for Jean Monnet this fall.
Yes, me too. Thank you.
Bye, and thank you
All the
so
best.
much.
Goodbye.